Well, hello there, everyone. Welcome to yet another edition of Johnny's Ambassadors Expert Webinar series for parents. We have another amazing guest with us today, whom I will introduce in just a moment. As we go over a few brief logistics, this session is being recorded. Please share it with all of your friends and family. We will have handouts for you in the control panel and also on this page if you are watching the recording. We will do about 45 minutes here with Michael, at which time he will take questions for about 15 minutes afterwards. So be ready to type those in the question box as you think of them, and I will read them off in the order they are received. So without any further ado, I want to introduce today's awesome guest. Michael DeLeon is a successfully acclimated ex-offender who, after nearly 20 years of drug addiction and nearly 8 years of crime and gang involvement, spent 12 years in state prison and halfway houses for a gang-related homicide. Since his release from prison, he has earned 3 associate's degrees, a baccalaureate degree in business management, a minor in criminal justice, and an educational certificate, and is in the process of obtaining his master's degree in addictions counseling at Liberty University. He's the founder of Steered Straight, which is a nonprofit formed in 2007, designed with the intention of carrying a prevention message to youth and young adults regarding the extreme dangers of adolescent drug and alcohol abuse, bullying, and unhealthy life choices. Michael, we are so delighted to have you with us here. Thank you for being one of Johnny's ambassadors.
Thank you so much. I hope you can hear me. Everybody can hear me, see me, and see the slides on the screen. It should just say Steered Straight, the name of my nonprofit organization. So I was involved in the Scared Straight program while incarcerated, and I'm sure you've seen maybe the documentaries on Scared Straight or the new version Beyond Scared Straight that the same producer pitched A&E television on, Beyond Scared Straight. And the concept is that the kids come into the prison and you scare them. You scare them straight. They're going to see this, outcome and not want that outcome for their life. So they're going to go on a different path. And I really hated it. That negative reinforcement doesn't work. I didn't like the concept. So when I got out of prison, I wanted to do it differently. And I found it Steered Straight. Wasn't very easy in the beginning getting into schools. I called up some principals and superintendents and said, "Good morning. I just got out of prison. I'd like to come talk to your children." Hello? Hello? So they hung up on me, right? It wasn't easy. It took a lot of work, a lot of slam doors in my face, but now I've become the #1 book school presenter in the entire country, and I am doing probably more schools this coming year than I ever did before. 2018, right before COVID hit, I did 708. We did 1680 as an organization. So we've spoken to kids in every single state. And about 6 years ago, I really started talking to kids about vaping. I was very involved in the initial stages of marijuana legalization. I produced the first documentary on what was taking place with marijuana legalization. There's been 2 pretty good ones done since mine. I produced the only documentary at the time that was showing the truth about what was taking place. I put it on YouTube so everybody can see it, and it's called Marijuana X. Marijuana X. So you can type in Marijuana X, the director's cut, right on YouTube, and you can watch that 54 minutes. And many of you are probably preaching to the choir. Many of you did it, but it's still very enlightening, and I urge you to watch it, and I urge you to share it with other people. I was talking to students in schools about all sorts of drugs. We were in the middle of what people were calling an opioid epidemic, and the opioid epidemic happened for a lot of different reasons, but growing under that opioid epidemic was the pandemic of kids getting more introduced and more desensitized, decreasing their sense of harm when it came to marijuana. At the same time, we had very, very agenda-driven people with puppets in the media pushing marijuana legalization, marijuana as the answer to the opioid epidemic. You could read a book by Dr. Ken Finn from Colorado, tell you and show you and prove to you that marijuana is not an answer for opioids. In fact, it makes it worse. But read between the lines is what I came up with because the media is full of crap. I don't care if you're talking about CNN or Fox. When it comes to marijuana, all media, right and left, is brainwashed. All media, right and left, is misinformed. And this is not a Democratic issue. I know most of the Democrats, led by idiot Chuck Schumer, is pushing marijuana legalization across the country federally, but many Republicans are on board. And this is a bipartisan, socioeconomic, culturally, racially, religious, no differences. This is going to affect our entire country. There are better answers. I love the way Kevin Sabet of Sam Smart Approaches to Marijuana puts it. There's smart approaches to marijuana. This Pandora's box is open and it's going to get much worse. So read between the lines. We have to talk about this. We've got to talk to our kids, and we've got to be educated ourselves because we have to have these conversations about kids. So I've been attacked over the years, attacked for a lot of different reasons, but I've even been attacked when it comes to marijuana legalization. I don't really want to fight adult use of marijuana. I want to be truthful about it. I want to. I'm not for legalization. I'm for smart decriminalization, but I'm not for industrialization and commercialization. I'm not for what's happening. I'm not for no testing. I'm not for no regulation. I'm not for no THC caps. I'm not for what's taking place in our country. But my focus, my direction is children, 21 years of age and younger. That's my focus. So that's what my attention goes to. I focus on the developing brain. It's really developing until 28, 30. Most women know men's brains don't fully develop ever, but your brain will not develop until you're in your 30s. So I know we're pushing this 21 years of age and older, but that's not the case. But my focus is 21 years of age and younger. So I didn't think what happened to me would happen to me. And I just want to share a little bit about what happened to me so you understand where I'm coming from, okay? I made the word, it can't happen to me, ism up. It's a disease. And the disease is the self-delusion that this won't happen to me. This won't be my kid. That's not going to be my outcome, okay? I'm just smoking weed. I'm not going to turn to heroin. I'm just drinking alcohol. I'm not going to become a cocaine addict, right? That won't happen to me. My full story is on my website, steeredstraight.org. Share that with you. You can go to my website. I wrote a whole book about my story. My book got put on hold because they bought the rights to the book and they're filming a movie. So my book is on hold till the end of this year. But this was my place. This is where I ended up. My story is decades in the making, but this was the outcome. A 6x9 cell for 12 full years. And that's where I turned everything around. And that's where Steered Straight was, born. And the minute I walked out of the cell in 2007, that's when I set forth to start Steered Straight. And basically, I wanted to go tell my story to kids. And I realized telling my story wasn't enough. A lot of people tell stories. Stories don't mean anything to most people. Teaching the story is the difference. And I wanted to start teaching my story, and that's what I set out to do. So I learned pretty quickly, especially through decriminalization movements and legalization movements, that this was becoming less of a concern. Jail, prison, incarceration, becoming less of a concern, becoming less of a threat, because becoming less of a fear. Okay? And this became the norm, where overdose death was escalating. I remember when we passed 35,000 overdose deaths in a year, and there was a big story. The numbers came out in October, I believe it was 2010 or 2011, and everyone was like, oh my gosh. And I started to wonder what was going to happen when we hit 50,000, when we hit 100,000, when we hit 150,000. We're going to hit 250,000. We're going to hit 250,000, and I believe that's going to happen between 2004 and 2005. The numbers just came out. They said it was 93,000 in 2020. If you believe that, I've got some swampland to sell you. It was 125,000 minimum. 125,000 died directly from drug death in 2020. And many of those deaths, over 25 to 30,000 of those deaths, were counted as COVID deaths. And so we have a pandemic that's under the pandemic that everyone's paying attention to. And this is becoming a norm, not an outlier. This has to change. So I wanted to really understand how I could get to kids about the origin of addiction. I didn't want to go talk to kids about heroin. I didn't want to go talk to kids about meth and cocaine. I didn't want to go talk to kids about overdose, because we're not going to stop the addiction crisis in this country unless we stop it from starting. The only way to stop this problem is to prevent it from starting in the first place. It's the only way. And we're spending less than 10% of every dollar on prevention. 90% of every dollar is being spent on intervention and the outcomes, the casualties, the consequences. So, having interviewed more than 10,000 addicts and ex-offenders, people in recovery, people who are in recovery or people who say they're recovered, and then the family members, I found that 90% of all addiction is grounded in three substances, all three substances, and that's alcohol, nicotine, and THC. It's 90% addiction in this country, 90%, all three. All three, nicotine, THC, and alcohol. So in 2010, one of my best friend's daughters passed away from a poisoning, from a heroin overdose, in Philadelphia. She was a third-year student at Drexel University and a straight A 4.0 GPA. Every protective factor you could have as a kid. And when her father asked me to explain how he raised a junkie, that's the exact words came out of his mouth. You're the junkie. I need you to explain to me how I raised a junkie. I couldn't answer his question looking at her life. So I set out to basically find a way to explain to her father how she died. This was 2010. No one was talking about the heroin pandemic in our country. No one was talking about the opioid epidemic in our country, but it was well underway, right? So I took my camera equipment and I went down to a little city called Camden, New Jersey. This movie, Kids Are Dying, is available to you. I put the whole thing on our website. I set out on day one to interview kids. Those 4 kids on the screen are the first 4 kids that I interviewed on day one, walking down the streets of Camden, New Jersey, carrying 2 tripods, 2 cameras with my earphones around my neck. And the girl in the upper right-hand corner was a straight A student at her high school, a 4.0 GPA, and she graduated valedictorian of her high school. She was on the streets of Camden, New Jersey for a little over a year, had dropped out of Temple University. She had become a cheerleader at Temple University, and she fell off a pyramid at a football game, and she fractured her tailbone. And the doctor put her on Percocet, and more Percocet, and Opana, and hydrocodone, and Vicodin, and morphine liquid, until they cut her off of her opioids and she turned to the street and found heroin, right? Well, that's what I set out with this movie, Kids Are Dying, to show. The origin of heroin mostly is in opioid medication. But when I asked that girl about her middle school years, her high school years, her childhood, when I asked her to tell me about growing up, she told me about 3 things: alcohol, nicotine, and marijuana. And I paid attention. And over the next 10 months, I interviewed 137 more kids, 137 total kids. And 88% of them told me the same opioid story: opioids, heroin, opioids, heroin. But 100% of them, every single one, told me the same thing: alcohol, nicotine, and marijuana. 137 out of 137. It changed the direction of my life. 2010 to 2011, I shot this movie, I produced it, I put it out in 2012. Nicotine, alcohol, marijuana. 2012, everything was changing with marijuana in Colorado and Washington. The votes were underway. 13, we went legal, fully legal for recreational. And alcohol use was starting to decrease among teens. That's what NIDA was saying. That's what CADCA was saying. That's what Samstra was saying. And I didn't believe it was true. And the nicotine industry, the tobacco industry, was full blown and full steam with the vaping and the e-cigarettes lying to the American public that e-cigarettes were going to somehow help people quit smoking. And this perfect storm was underway. So it changed the direction of my life because I found out that the trifecta gateway of alcohol, nicotine, and marijuana was the origin and the foundation of addiction. I used nicotine for the first time at the age of 11. At the age of 11, I used alcohol. At the age of 11, I smoked marijuana. Alcohol, nicotine, and marijuana at the age of 11, while my brain was developing, changed my life forever. So, drug addiction is not about drugs. Drug addiction is about the brain. And the three drugs that starts 90% of all addiction is alcohol, nicotine, and THC. And this has been true for decades. The difference is alcohol's changed, nicotine has changed, and THC has dwarfed into something that has absolutely no representation of what it has ever been in our country's history. So 90% of all drug and alcohol abusers start as a teenager, and 90% of all those abusers start with three substances. And we are changing nicotine, changing THC. When I put out Kids Are Dying, many parents across the country got on my Facebook page and they told me the same thing. You think it's bad in Camden? Come to Huntington, West Virginia. You think it's bad in New Jersey? Come to Baltimore. Come to LA. Come to Arizona. So off I went. I went to 30 states. And I interviewed 500 parents who lost their kids to an overdose of drugs. And 500 out of 500 parents told me the exact same thing. Before the age of 18, alcohol, nicotine, and marijuana. While I was filming American Epidemic, it was in the middle of Colorado going legal. I was in Denver, videotaping the lines around the block, videotaping senators, state senators and state reps and mayors celebrating marijuana. People lined up and celebrating marijuana. 420 festivals in Denver. So I put out this movie, Marijuana X. I think it was one of the most important films of its time. There's two good documentaries that have come out since then. Patrick Kennedy interviewed for this movie, Kevin Smith in this movie, a lot of moms who lost their kids, a lot of moms who are called, propagandists and conspiracy theorists and freaks. Marijuana is a plant. Cannabis is a plant. Bullshit. Not anymore. It's not. Marijuana. So this is the one video I have posted on my website that I get the most thumbs down on because, you get a lot of kids smoking weed at home, dabbing at home, putting thumbs down on the more thumbs down you got, the more you should watch this movie. Please share this movie. Please watch it. It will open your eyes to a lot of things still to this day. And this movie's 7 years old. So, in 2009, what a lot of people didn't realize is the Ogden memo. It gave guidance to law enforcement on how to enforce the CSA, the Controlled Substances Act, in states that were going towards medical legalization of marijuana. Colorado looked at the Ogden memo and realized that's quasi-legalization. When people tell me we legalized marijuana in Colorado in 14, 13, I say, no, we didn't. We did it in 09. The Ogden memo under the Obama administration was the beginning of full-blown legalization of marijuana. Medical marijuana is a ruse, a bait and switch, and it's just opening the doors, and it's been proven. So 4 years later, 2013, the Cole memo came out under the Obama administration. And what the Cole memo wanted to clarify, telling law enforcement, we want to focus on three things, none of which ever came through. Prevent the distribution of cannabis to minors, absolutely never happened and won't happen because Pandora's box is open. Prevent cannabis revenue from funding drug enterprises, gangs, and cartels. It is fueling cartels and gangs. Anyone who ever tells you that we want to take the money away from the cartels and put it in taxes, they have no idea what they're talking about. And prevent cannabis from moving into states that have not legalized marijuana. Well, that's never happened. But that's where 09 Ogden memo, 2013 Cole memo, that's the foundation of marijuana legalization under the Obama administration. People could call me a conspiracy theorist, I could care less. People can attack me and hate on me, I could care less. The origin of marijuana legalization under the Obama administration began with two Justice Department memos, Ogden and Cole. That's what started this whole nightmare. Where are we now? 18 states and DC, also 2 territories, fully recreational. Another additional 18 states, fully medicinal marijuana, which is a joke. There's no such thing as medical marijuana. We have 36 states in DC and 2 territories, pretty much fully recreational, fully legal. Zero caps on any state on potency. There are certain quasi-potency pushes and policies, none of it being enforced. There are zero caps in any state in America on THC potency, no regulation anywhere. There's not one state that has identical testing to any other state. We have no uniform policies. It is Pandora's box. It is the wild, wild west. And everybody in the media is sitting out there celebrating, calling marijuana what marijuana used to be did when Jimi Hendrix was playing the Star Spangled Banner at Woodstock, okay? This is not the same garbage. This is not the same molecule. This is not the same plant. This is not the same drug. We are calling marijuana what we called marijuana 30 years ago, and it doesn't even come close. Adolescent use of marijuana is at record highs. Potency is at record highs. 100% pure THC. You can get it in a liquid, you can get it in a wax, you can get it in a crystal, you can get it in a vape pen, a pod, you can get it anywhere across our country. It can be delivered to your house by UPS, and there's absolutely no regulation. And where are our federal legislators? Where are our state legislators? I know that to you, to most everybody on this presentation, on this call, I'm preaching to the choir. I also know that there's some marijuana zealots that get on these calls and get on these presentations to keep an eye on us to see what we're doing. Hey, welcome, glad to have you. Right? I get it, But we have to talk about it. We have to be educated. We have to be able to answer questions. We have to be able to give people the reality, especially children. You want to smoke weed, what they are calling weed. You want to use this garbage at 21 years of age. I don't recommend it, but I'm not going to have a public opinion. I'm not going to fight these zealots anymore who are screaming and hating and spreading misinformation at 21. I'm not going to do it. Focus on my fight is for 20 years and younger. You want to use this stuff 21 years of age and older, I don't recommend it. It's not. But my fight is for children while the brain's developing. We have to give kids the truth. Drug driving is at record levels. We're not even putting out the reports anymore about THC. A good report came out about 2 weeks ago about suicides and toxicology on adolescent suicides, and how the #1 drug in the toxicology report for an adolescent to commit suicide is marijuana. And all the cannabis industry does, all the marijuana industry does, is point to alcohol. They don't defend marijuana. They try to minimize it by diverting the attention and the outrage to alcohol. We have a systemic contamination in hotels, in rental cars, all across this country, many tourist locations. And people are telling me all the time, I'm not going to Vegas anymore. It's not, I smell weed everywhere. I'm not going to Denver anymore. I smell weed everywhere. This was part of a panel that changed their conference of over 3,000 people from Denver to South Dakota. It's affecting our country. Okay, so where are we going? 68% of voters support federal legalization, and I believe it will pass federally. I believe the Democrats will pass federal legalization of marijuana in the next year. I'm scared to death of that. I hope it doesn't happen. I hope I'm wrong, but I believe it will happen. Jeff Bezos and Amazon fully involved in all legalization talks. They are fully involved in the drafting of legalization, and they want to control distribution. Amazon wants to control the distribution of THC products. Mark my words. Call me crazy, mark my words. Monsanto is controlling 90% of the raw materials, and no one's paying attention to what George Soros is doing, how involved Bill Gates is, how involved Monsanto is in this. They own the patents to the top 10 strains of seeds. No one's paying attention to the agenda. Cannabis-induced psychosis, especially among adolescents, skyrocketing. Cannabis hypermesis syndrome skyrocketing, especially among adolescents. explosion in earlier onset of addiction, earlier onset of mental health problems, earlier onset of schizophrenia, especially among kids. We are going to see a continued explosion of suicides. We are going to see a continued explosion of adolescent use of this because kids don't have the truth. When Johnny's ambassadors can get into kids' schools and can get into front of kids, Steered Straight, my organization, and other good, so evidence-founded, educationally grounded speakers and presenters with continuing education can get to kids, that's the only way we're going to stop this. The only way we decrease cigarette smoking in this country among adolescents is we got the truth to kids. In 1999, 33% of high school kids were smoking cigarettes. 2014, 7% of kids were smoking cigarettes. It wasn't because of Mitch McConnell. It wasn't because of the tobacco industry. It wasn't because of Samsung Kadka. It was because of kids. When we got the education through Rebel programs, through Truth Campaign, when we got the education to kids and we showed them and told them what was taking place, what tobacco was doing to them, what tobacco was doing to their brain and their body, they stopped smoking. The only way we're going to decrease marijuana use across this country among kids is by increasing their perception of harm. And the only way we do that is with education. So by educating kids, that's how we're going to stop this. We're not going to fight these politicians because they care about one thing, control and money. We're not going to fight the tobacco industry, Mitch McConnell and the tobacco industry. That's who's driving this. We're not going to fight Soros because people call you a conspiracy theorist when you even bring it up. We've got to get this truth to kids. We're going to see a complete destruction of the recovery movement. The very population of people in this country who overcame their addiction, we are systematically destroying that whole population by celebrating marijuana as a part of recovery. You are going to see sober living houses. You are going to see treatment centers, because treatment centers in this country, 95% of them, care about one thing, money. And when they see their census going down, they will tell kids, we are a marijuana maintenance facility. So you can sit in your sober living house, you can pass the bong around while you go over your 12 steps. Using marijuana, telling the world that you're in recovery. Mark my words, it's already happening. So, vape drove the explosion of this. E-cigarettes, they knew it was 1999 when they had THC in a wax and a liquid form. 1999, people say 1999, you're crazy. The first vape didn't hit the market until 2009, 10 years later. You're right, the atomizer, the mod, okay, the vape, the e-cigarette, that's what drove this explosion, and that's what it's going to drive the chain, the ingestion method, all illicit drugs in this country. E-cigarette, the vape, okay? When I was filming Marijuana X in 2012 and 2013, e-cigarette use was just beginning. Now it's exploded. It's becoming the drug delivery system. What you see on the left is a vial of THC liquid, vape, kid vaping on the right, using an e-device on the right, ingesting that THC, best ingestion method for a drug. If you go all the way back to 1960 and you look at the DEA reports of THC levels in the cannabis plant, whether it's indica or sativa, it was 1%. And you walk over the next 51 years to 2011. The highest THC level in this entire country by 2011 was about 12%. And when Colorado legalized, Washington legalized, in 2 years, we went from 12 to 37. 2 years. That's not botanists and farmers right there. That's chemists and scientists and a company called Monsanto. The middle 5 years of the last 10-year explosion, 12-year explosion from 2009 to 2021, that's where it all changed. That's where the entire e-cigarette industry, marijuana industry, which is the tobacco industry, changed. And we put out these devices that would fit in kids' pockets. We celebrated them. We told kids that it's harmless, They lied. They went on their social media campaigns. They went on their internet. They went on their magazines. And Juul pushed this thing as a way to help smokers quit smoking. Okay. I could do another whole presentation on this whole vaping industry and this vaping life and this vaping scenario, but I don't have time to do that today. What I'll tell you is this came after the fact. When it all came together, and Altria, who is so invested in the marijuana industry, it's not even funny. When Altria realized that they could use these devices to push THC, they turned around and told smokers this was a way to quit smoking. So many people are under the misconception that vaping was invented to help people quit smoking. No, that was the lie, the bait and switch, the distraction that came about because the e-device was always from the beginning designed to deliver THC, deliver other illicit drugs into the brain of adolescents, get them hooked at a young age. Marijuana's THC concentrates, the form of PHOs and extracted hash oils and waxes, became packed all across the country. Gas tanks, 100% top shelf THC, liquid contaminants, liquid and wax THC. No longer cleaning weed on a frisbee in your parents' basement, getting all those seeds out. These plants don't even produce seeds anymore. This has changed everything. Butane, hash oil, burning it down, turning it into shatter and dabs and waxes and liquids, normalizing it. This is still called marijuana. This is still called a plant. This is still called God's, plant. It's crazy. Okay, putting billboards up. How we get away with the lies? I seen billboard about a year ago coming out of LAX, and it said in states that legalized marijuana, they saw a 52 or 54% reduction in opioid overdose deaths. Absolute lie. Absolute lie. So concentrates, I said in 2014, I said concentrates will surpass flour in 2016. I was wrong. It happened in 2017. 2017, the sales of concentrates and dabs, liquids and waxes passed cannabis flour. Now we have crystal, 100% pure, so easily and readily available. You can order it online. You don't go to the dark web, you just go to the World Wide Web. Widespread distribution of edibles and candies all across this country. UPS is delivering it, FedEx is delivering it, the Postal Service is delivering it all across this country. Now, a very interesting thing happened as this was unfolding. A CBD industry, unfolding, and there are some people that literally believe in cannabidiol. I'm one that believes CBD can be a alternative to psychiatric medications, alternative to the pharmaceutical medications. There are molecules in the cannabis plant and the hemp plant that absolutely can benefit us as a civilization. Let's harness them, let's study them, let's vet them, let's test them, and let's get them into products that are heavily regulated. Okay? But that's not what happened. That's not what is happening. The CB industry might have started out with good intentions, but it was quickly taken over by the monster, okay? The tobacco industry. Now we're creating a THC market thanks to the Farm Bill that President Trump signed in 2018. So I'm not sure many people on this call are probably very familiar with what's happening with something called Delta 8. Okay, it's not new. It's been around a long time. I was talking and teaching about Delta 8 in 2012 and 13. It's a molecule in hemp, also in cannabis. People tell me sometimes there's no Delta 8 in cannabis. They don't know what they're talking about. Delta marijuana traditionally has been Delta 9, okay? Tetrahydrocannabinol, THC, Delta 9. It is a molecule in cannabis. There is Delta 9 in hemp. People say, no, there's not. Yes, there is. Hemp doesn't get you high. Absolutely wrong. Hemp doesn't have psychoactive molecules. Absolutely wrong. Delta 8, higher concentration in hemp than in cannabis that we know of right now. But they got the hemp plant fully legalized in 2018, and President Trump signed the Farm Bill. I wrote a white paper and I presented it to 535 members of Congress. Jared Kushner sent it to the Trump administration over a dozen times. 2 congressmen in our entire country even acknowledged me. Nobody would listen. I didn't want the hemp plant fully legalized. Delta 8, ironically, is a Schedule 1 drug by the DEA, just like Delta 9 is, right? But the 2008 Farm Bill fully legalized every molecule in the hemp plant. Now, being still federally a Schedule 1 drug banned in this country federally, it's fully federally legal under the Farm Bill, because in the Farm Bill, it made hemp, every molecule in the hemp plant, completely legal. There is no regulation of Delta 8. So what we just did is we legalized marijuana in all 50 states across this country because the Farm Bill legalized hemp. And now these vape shops, this was all set up with these vape shops are selling and celebrating Delta 8 in cartridges that can go right in any device, and kids can use it. We actually have had 16, 17-year-old kids go into some vape shops and buy Delta 8. They're selling it in gas stations, and they're not even taking ID in many states because it's not illegal for kids to be buying CBD products in some states. Even though in 2019, the federal government made all tobacco products 21 years of age and older. That didn't happen in this country until 2019. Many of these shops are not considering Delta 8 a tobacco product. And there's very, very little definitive policy and very definitive instructions and guidance on Delta 8. So we literally have places across this country that are selling Delta 8 to kids, even though they're not supposed to buy it under 21 because it's technically a tobacco product defined in the tobacco legislation and the nicotine legislation. But a lot of people are saying, well, it's not nicotine, it's Delta 8, and the Farm Bill legalized hemp. It boggles my mind that no one is even talking about this. Delta 8 is genetically modified, industrialized, commercialized, being sold literally anywhere and everywhere in this country, obtained by adolescents. Now, there's a cousin to Delta 8 on the other side of Delta 9 called Delta 10. This is going to be very, very dangerous. This is more psychoactive at its core than Delta 8 and Delta 9, but when you genetically modify, you isolate it and extract it, you commercialize it and industrialize it, we are going to see a real problem, bigger than we see right now. This is derived from hemp. I have yet to have someone show me factually that they have Delta 10 from cannabis, but here's another thing that scares me. We're getting Delta 10 extracted and commercialized, and they're putting it in packaging for Delta 8. I was reading an article yesterday that someone said Delta 8 is the miracle thing because if you want to sleep at night, you can use Delta 8 and sleep. If you want to be pepped up in the morning, you can use Delta 8 and be pepped up. So the same drug can affect you in different ways depending on the time of day that you take it. This is crazy. This is crazy. It's not the time of day you take it. It's how this molecule will interact with your pharmacogenetics, with your DNA. It's going to be, and then we have to really worry how it's going to affect kids. How it's going to have drug interactions. So if someone's on antipsychotics, antidepressant medication, anti-anxiety medication, benzodiazepine, how is Delta 8, Delta 10, THC, high concentrate protein THC, how is this going to interact with pharmaceutical drugs that these kids are taking place? How's it going to interact with their stimulant medication? How's it going to interact with their Adderall or their Ritalin or their Vyvanse or their Concerta? No one's even asking these questions. And kids are not going to be completely forthcoming when they go to their pediatrician. And if the parent doesn't even know the kid's vaping, but so that's vaping Delta 8, is the pediatrician gonna and the primary gonna know if there's a drug-to-drug interaction if it's never even been studied? We didn't open Pandora's box. We smashed it open. We smashed Pandora's box open. This is the whole stable's open. Every horse is out. There's no fence around the farm. Man, it is the wild, wild west. And people are afraid to talk up. People are afraid to speak up. Well, Laura's not. I'm not. Amazing people are not. Okay. An amazing woman that was just on Fox News talking about cannabis-induced psychosis, Miss Swan. There's a lot of good people. If you're on this call, I'm not talking to the pro-marijuana people who get on these calls just to see what we're all doing, us conspiracy theorists are doing. If you're on this call and you're concerned, if you have kids, you're a parent, I urge you to call your local legislators, your state reps, and ask them. I have a nonprofit organization, so I don't lobby. I don't tell people what to do. If you just heard what I said, ask them questions. Do your research. Don't take what I post or take what I say as Bible, as fact. Go research what I post. Go research what I say. Do the research yourself. I'm telling you what my experience shows. I'm telling you how concerned I am about this. I think there's two big threats to our country right now as far as drugs go. The first is fentanyl, and the second is THC. What we're seeing right now scares the hell out of me, and I can't even concept how much worse it's going to get, but it's going to get a lot worse. I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. I don't even really call myself an independent. I vote for people, and I educate the issues. I vote for my school board that way. I vote for my local reps that way. I vote for national people that way, and I vote for presidents that way. Congressmen and senators, I vote the same way. I see where they stand on certain issues. I don't think any of our legislators from top to bottom are educated enough on what's taking place with drugs, what's taking place with addiction, what's taking place with our kids. We just had a record year of suicide. We just had a record year, even though the number is underreported, 93,000. We just had a record year of overdose death. And it's not even overdose anymore. We are moving from the overdose epidemic through a paradigm shift to the poisoning pandemic. Fentanyl is going to devastate our country. And our southern border is where it's all pouring through. So I'm not a Republican saying this is all Biden's fault. This was started under Trump. Okay, fentanyl was pouring into our country, started under the Obama administration. It was fueled through the Trump administration. China is destroying America with fentanyl, using the cartels to do it, using our southern border to flood our country right now. And if you are a Democrat that's not speaking up, if you're a Republican that's not speaking up, you should be ashamed of yourself. Fentanyl is destroying our country, and I promise you, THC and all the Delta molecules, Delta 8, Delta 9, Delta 10, all the vaping industry, all the e-cigarette industry, all the tobacco industry, the nicotine industry, is going to fuel addiction. The foundation of addiction is grounded in three things: alcohol, nicotine, and THC. And now THC does not even come close to what THC was when it was the origin of addiction, when it was fueling addiction. I have a Facebook page. You can follow it. I share as much stuff as I possibly can. I try not to be political. I try not to be religious and spiritual. It doesn't always work out that way. I'm really good at not using profanity. I think mostly that's because my wife has my Facebook password and she goes and takes the curse words off. I'm passionate about what I do. I'm a 7-day-a-week, 365-day-a-year fighter. I don't consider myself an advocate. I hate that word. There's a lot of slacktivists in America. They go on social media and act like they're doing something. They're keyboard advocates. I'm not that one. 7 days a week, I am trying to educate kids and educate families to make the best choices. Okay, and that's what I feel I'm doing. We have a book, A8. Can you give me a Table Talks book?
Yeah.
We published a book for parents. I didn't put it on here. I don't like to try to sell things. I don't try to make money. We're a nonprofit. I used to beg, borrow, and steal. Now I just beg and borrow, right? I beg and borrow because our nonprofit organization is struggling, and I'm trying to get information out. But we spent 3 years publishing a book called Table Talks and Dashboard Conversations, and it's about 1/3 on drugs. It's about 2/3 on protective factors. So it's not even about drugs, okay? Drug addiction is not about drugs anyway. Drug addiction is about the brain, and drug addiction is about the unaddressed trauma, adverse childhood experiences, learned behavior, and chemistry, protective factors, lowering risk factors, increasing protective factors, and that's what this book does. So we published this book called Table Talks and Dashboard Conversations. It's on Amazon, only $20, or you can go to our website. We only get $3 if you order it on Amazon. We get $6 if you order it at steeredstraight.org. You can order this book. It's an entire year of conversations. I urge you to get it. All my movies are on our website. I thank you for this time. I thank you for this opportunity. Oh my God, I thank Laura for the chance to present this. I could go on for hours, but I want to go into the Q&A section. If I can't answer your question, I'll tell you I can't answer it. But thank you so much for letting me share with you.
Michael, this is incredible, and you're getting a lot of comments about amazing, wonderful information, and I just wanted everybody to meet you so that they could see why I like you so much, why I believe in your message, and we are kindred spirits. You know, everything that you've said, I say amen, amen, you know, and I continue to repeat it until I am blue in the face, and I will never stop. Just like you, I'm a fighter, and I really don't care what people say. So right. Just, you know, it's really important to get this information out, and we've got to talk to kids, yeah. You know, that's why I wrote my book. That's why we have the curriculum. You know, you're my kind of guy. I like you so much. I love your message, and we're so grateful. And we do have some questions.
Yeah, well, just real quick, I want to tell you, you're a champion, and your message needs to get out. I didn't know Johnny, never met Johnny. I will meet him. I'm going to meet him. I'm going to hang out with him.
We'll all meet him
one day. But he is looking down so proud and grateful that he's going to live in infamy and forever because of you and your work. So we have to educate kids through his story and through his through his learned experience, but he's hanging out with Jesus in my mind.
Thank you, Michael. Well, you know, that's exactly what we're doing, is working to keep his spirit alive. And his warning, you know, he was the one who said before he died, marijuana ruined my mind and my life. And I'm sorry. And we will keep getting that message out. What do you think about the hemp ruse, bait, and switch? What do we do about that? What are they ever going to recognize that Delta 8, Delta 10, this is all coming out of hemp? Is there ever going to be a control on it now, or is it just?
I mean, I think the only way we do, I really mean this. You know, people like to use that talking point, the war on drugs didn't work. Well, I can show you where it did work and how it did work, okay? As an ex-offender who spent 12 years in prison, a full-blown drug addict who did more drugs than anybody ever met in your life. Alcohol's here, tobacco's here. Number one killer in the world, cigarettes, okay? Drug killers, pharmaceutical. Number 3, drug killers, alcohol. All fully legal and all fully regulated. Illicit drugs are legal and not regulated, okay? Only regulated through the criminal justice system. Well, the use was kept lower than alcohol and pharmaceutical drugs and tobacco. So don't tell me the war on drugs kept drug use high. It didn't work. It kept drug use lower. But we built a prison industrial complex by doing that, which was not the answer either. So people say the war on drugs didn't work. I don't believe we're going to have the federal government and state government come in and regulate Delta 8 and Delta 10. Pandora's box is blown away. We've got to educate our kids, our parents, and our staff. We have to pass smart policies. You know, I'm not stealing. I'm giving credit to Kevin Savett and Sam's smart approaches to marijuana. We need to make smart approaches. I don't agree with Kevin Savett on everything. I don't believe Patrick Henry on everything. I want to make smart approaches to this. I think I think we have to go after the businesses that are, manufacturing this, packaging this stuff. I mean, I can show you we are testing Delta 10 and Delta 8 packaging products from vape shops across this country. There is Delta 10 hemp derived. There's also Delta 8 cannabis derived in packaging that says hemp derived. So until we get our state legislators and our attorney generals up to speed. No, I sat down with the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, and so many of them didn't even know what I was talking about. They didn't. I had one guy, PPI, did not even know what Delta 8 was. I mean, what Delta 8. Oh, now I see. He called me 2 days later. He says, you know what? I saw 2 Delta 8 flags on my way home from work. Now I know what Delta 8 is. The Tennessee Bureau of Investigation. You don't even understand what this drug's all about. So I don't know what else to do except continue to try to educate people, but we have to educate our reps and we have to educate our national reps. But look what's happening with COVID. Some of the truth is coming out with COVID, and these people are digging in deeper to junk science that was wrong. Right? So I think the tobacco industry is so powerful. Mitch McConnell is so powerful. That's who's really in control of this, the tobacco industry. George Soros, Bill Gates. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I can show you. We've got to educate people. So the more educated we are on this, the better educated we can educate them.
Well, and our kids know. They are already very aware. You ask anyone over, 25 what a dab is. And that's an awareness campaign that we all have to be involved in. We all have to be ambassadors of this message. When we just passed, I'm sure you're aware, the Colorado 1317, of course. And I talked with countless, representatives, senators, our congressman, the AG's office, testified over and over. And, we got that through. Nobody know what it was when we talked to them. I mean, we would sit there and tell senators, and they don't even, they were like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I don't even, in our own state, they had never even seen a dab, didn't even know about the waxes and shatters. It was like everybody just fell over incredulous. And that's in our very own backyard. That this is, and it's a joke. Everyone says it's regulated. And how could it be regulated if our very own government doesn't even know what it is?
Right, exactly.
Totally agree with you. What about things like kids and pregnant women eating hemp products? Okay, so we're seeing seeds, cereals, milk, hemp oils on salad. This is all being recommended by naturopaths for protein and fatty acids. What is the difference between that and CBD and hemp products? What is safe and what is not?
It's just unregulated. It's not tested. It's not FDA looked at. I'm not a fan of the FDA, but at least they have tested products. This is all out there with absolutely no foundation. So it's like when the keto diet first started out. Oh man, what's the best way to say this? I can't recommend one way or the other. You have to do your research. I know, Hemp Works in Kentucky. I know they third-party test their hemp. I would always want to know. Innovate, okay, is another company, very, very well respected and tested. I'm a fan of CBD. I'm a fan of hemp. Used in the right way, regulated. You have to do as much research as you possibly can to make sure that the stuff has been third-party tested and that the company that's selling it doesn't own, and that has to be produced and the information and facts have to be easily found, that they don't own their third-party testing company. They don't have a relationship with their third-party testing company. I tell people, I hear people sometimes tell me, oh my God, I can sleep now with Delta 8. I can sleep because of it. Okay. If you just smoke some weed, I bet you can sleep too. I don't know what to tell people, what products to use. I'm not going to endorse any kind of product, but the best thing I can say is to do exhaustive research not just subjective what you feel, but a subjective research on whatever products that you're using. I believe that we can do better from a capitalist standpoint, from a retail standpoint, from a sales standpoint. I think we could do better with these products. But Delta 8 and Delta 10 and Delta 9 is my focus. Someone called me a hemp enemy the other day. I'm not a hemp enemy. Hemp has its benefits, but not Delta 8 and Delta 10. If you're going to sell it, and it's going to be federally legal, tell people what you're selling. Right. People have absolutely no idea about any drug-to-drug interaction whatsoever. So exhaustive research.
Well, and you mentioned, of course, that the CBD has been bred out of the plant. Yes. And it was, used to be kind of a protective factor. And even our FDA-approved medications have, equal amounts of THC, CBD in very, very low amounts, pharmaceutical grade, very pure, that, for certain seizure disorders and things like that. But I think, too, that now the CBD industry, what about all these isolates, right? That you can smoke these pure CBD isolates. Is that seen as a protective factor for people, for example, if they are addicted to THC? Do you suggest that they try some of these CBD isolates, or have those been tested too? And, is it shown that maybe they're not really 0% THC? Is that even possible
right,
to strip all of that out of the plant? I mean, we don't know, right?
They can. There's a way to do it, but are they doing it?
Right.
What is the benefit to these companies to get people off these products, right? I read cannabis scientists religiously. I get so much cannabis. I bought 5 cannabis stocks. I'm fully transparent. I own 5 cannabis stocks because I get all the information on those stocks. And I won't profit until I sell them. And when I sell them, if I do make profit, 100% of the profit is going to go right into our nonprofit. So I will not benefit personally, but I get all this information. So it's so new. It's so new. Who knows? Who knows? Okay. And I'm telling you, a lot of these doctors that are coming out and saying this is great, that's great. They're being paid to say a lot of things. Sanjay Gupta, very, very, very wealthy off the CBD industry. It's a shame. It's a shame. So I don't, I don't know what to recommend as far as CBD goes for people addicted to THC. Abstinence is the only thing I can ever, advocate for. But do your research, because I'm hearing a lot of subjective and objective information from people that they are finding freedom from THC addiction through isomers, through isolates, through cannabidiol. That's very low THC.
And what are you seeing? The couple more questions. I know we only have 2 more minutes. You mentioned fentanyl, and there are reports out there with the edibles that more things are being laced with fentanyls. Are you safe if you buy it in a dispensary? Safe, meaning it's not going to have fentanyl in it, that it is, a THC product. And should children just be told, hey, don't buy, edibles off the street? If they are buying them, make sure to buy them in a dispensary, or does that not matter? I mean, are we going to start to see, fentanyl laced gummy bears wind up in legal dispensaries? What's the word on that?
Yeah, I mean, to say fentanyl will be in legal dispensaries, that's a big leap. I don't think that will happen. But I'd say there's more cannabis, hemp, marijuana gummies being produced in the black market than is being produced in the real market. So how do you know? A lot of I tested Delta 10 and a Delta 8 vape that was manufactured in a packaging, but it was in a gas station, right? In a dispensary, yes, I'm scared of fentanyl, right? But, I'm scared of THC too. You mentioned earlier when we were talking before we started the study out of Denmark that just came out that took psychosis from a
2% to 8%. Yep.
2% to 8%. So is that more dangerous than fentanyl? One kid asked me in a presentation a couple of weeks ago, what's the most dangerous drug on earth? I said, the one you're addicted to or the one you die from. That's the most dangerous drug. For some people, alcohol is the most dangerous drug on earth. For some people, cigarettes are the most dangerous drug on earth. For a lot of people, sugar is the most dangerous drug on earth, right? Fentanyl in dispensaries, I would be shocked to see that, shocked. Right?
Okay.
So if we're going to look at harm reduction and direct people that refuse to stop to the safest methodology, I guess dispensaries, right? I guess dispensaries. But anything on the street, any pill, any marijuana derivative, any isolate, any dab, any concentrate, any BHO, not out of a dispensary in no way, shape, and form. But we're going to see fentanyl trickle into everything, especially pills. And so I would tell people don't touch anything that's not in at least a state regulated dispensary. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, all of the rest of the comments are fantastic. Thank you. Best ever. Excellent. Thanks for having Michael. Enjoyed this. We'll check out the website. So I will just echo all those comments and just end by telling you how much I appreciate you being one of Johnny's ambassadors and appreciate your time.
Yeah.
Talent,
Your parents pick this book up.
Yes, go out and get the book. Table Talks. We'll make sure that we have a link to the Marijuana X video on the Johnny's Ambassadors website, as well as your nonprofit. And we will tag team and just continue to work together with our mutual messages. Michael, thank you so much. Appreciate you. All right, everybody. Take care. Thanks for being one of Johnny's Ambassadors. Take care. Bye-bye.